Hello, hello. Here we are in my car sooner than I anticipated being in here again. I've started this new series. 24-365 is over, and we're moving on to more dedicated videos that kind of tell the story of my success as a creative individual. I should say more my practical success and how I hope that that will lead to success as a creative individual. There is, of course, still a great deal of time between now and when I succeed, but I think that these more focused videos will be a better chance at getting there. I've made now, I did the 24-365 challenge, which was largely just me making videos in my car, driving to and from work, and that series was, I guess, successful enough for me starting out, but not necessarily where I wanted to be indefinitely, obviously. And so, albeit I thought I was done with recording videos in my car for a good while, here we are in my car again, recording videos again. And that's because this particular story really, it doesn't make any more sense for it to be recorded anywhere other than from the comfort of my own vehicle. I can remember when I was a senior in high school, there was one fateful breakfast, Sunday morning breakfast. My dad used to make up a whole spread, and I can remember one fateful Sunday morning breakfast, sitting at the table asking my parents, like, if I wanted to lead a life void of financial stress, like, what should I do? Where should I target my efforts? And I basically asked them what the two largest payments are that the average adult would have. And that was, as they summarized, a mortgage payment and a car payment. And so I then decided that that was going to be where I focused my efforts. Now, of course, I did not properly channel my efforts until graduation and getting a job and all of those things. But I did, at the very least, have a clear direction. And so the idea at that point in time was to start with the car. That was the cheaper of the two payments, was the car payment. And so that is kind of where our story begins. I sat down with my folks, asked them what the first two most expensive payments were for an adult, and they said car and mortgage. And I was like, okay, well, car is the cheaper of the two, makes sense to start there. And so that is where this story kind of began. And the initial, well, I guess the always hope was to just save up enough money to buy a brand new car and then drive it until it explodes and then do it all over again and hopefully live a life where I never actually have a car payment. And so I started saving when I got my job at Home Depot, which is the first serious full-time job that I had. When I got that job, I started saving right then and there so that I could buy a car. I had a car, I'm pretty sure my parents did this for all of us, but they gave us a car that was our graduation present, and I had a 1997 Buick Century. That was technically my first car, and it was a nice car. I enjoyed driving it. I despise driving, so it's something to say that I enjoyed driving that car. I really enjoyed that it had, and this is going to sound bizarre, but I really enjoyed that it had a cassette player in it, and I could listen to cassettes in the car, because I feel like cassettes are such a mobile medium for music, that like they are meant to be heard in like cars and things of that nature. I was just going to kind of save up for the car, and that's pretty much what I did for, I don't even know, was it a whole year? I'm trying to think. I bought the car in 2016, and I started at Home Depot in 2015. So I guess, yeah, it was close to a year that it took me to save up for it. I had my sights set on a Dodge Dart. I was going to get a Dodge Dart. That was the car that I had decided I wanted, and it was within my price range. It wasn't horribly overpriced. It wasn't disgusting or anything. And my dad had a Caravan that was a pretty reliable vehicle, so that's why I wanted a Dodge. And so I was like, okay, Dodge Dart is around $16,000, and I'm gonna save up 20, and then I will just buy the car, and that'll be the first step into my journey of financial freedom. And as the time grew closer, as it got closer to time for me to make the financial decision to purchase a car, I can remember my dad was like, oh, well, you should probably test drive some cars before you just buy a car. And me, being my 21-year-old self, was like, oh, Dad, I know what car I want. I don't need to test drive a car. And so I, just to entertain him, I suppose, I went and test drove some cars. I test drove a Nissan Versa, which was well under my price range, and I test drove a Hyundai Accent, which is like right kind of at my price range, and then I test drove a Dodge Dart, which was actually above what I had anticipated when I started saving, but still something I could afford. And I don't know if we did it in any particular order, but we did test drive them in that order as well. The test driving of the Nissan Versa wasn't a great experience. The car, like, the blinkers weren't working, and I was like, this is really odd that this is a brand new car and the blinkers aren't working. And the guy's like, oh, they just need to be turned on or adjusted or whatever. And I was like, And just like in general, the car didn't drive like spectacularly. It didn't really like blow me away. I was like, I mean, it's fine for a first car, I guess, but I was not sold by it. So I still had my mind set on the Dodge Dart. And then so we drove the Hyundai Accent next, and it was actually a really pleasant experience. I can remember the salesman that we drove with. He did a real fine job. He was just a stand-up guy. I didn't have anything ill-willed to say about him. And then the drive itself was good. It was a comfortable car. It had an armrest, which is something that I didn't think that I needed, but then realized that I really liked. And so yeah, that was a swell experience. And then we went to the Dodge Dart, and that was like the one I was pretty much already sold on that car. I was going to buy that car. And we went to the Dodge dealership, and they didn't have any Darts on the lot. And we were talking with one of the salespeople, and we're like, hey, we would like to test drive a Dodge Dart. Do you have one on the lot? And he was just like very irritated to be dealing with us, and he was just like, that kind of, and he's like, well, we don't have any on the lot. No, we got to go to our other lot and get one. And we're just kind of like, okay, like, are you going to go to your other lot and get one or what? And he just kind of didn't really say anything, didn't really do anything. And then finally, I guess he called a guy and got the guy out there to go get the Dodge Dart from the lot. So we're waiting around, just trying to buy time until the car shows up. And the car finally does show up. And he's like, okay, I guess we can test drive this or whatever. And it drove fine. It wasn't a stellar experience, but it really kind of heightened the idea of how a salesman can make or break an experience for someone, because I can distinctively remember thinking that the experience as a whole was just a crappy experience. The experience with the Hyundai Accent was a good experience, and I liked the car, I liked driving it, I liked the salesman, and the Dart was a fine experience, but the salesman was just a turd, and I was like, I don't even want to deal with you anymore, dude. And so, like I said, it shines a light on the impact of a salesman, and they lost a sale. I was sold on the Dart already. I was going to buy that car. That was going to be my car. And then this salesman was just a turd, and the experience was just lame. Plus, it was like $2,000 more than the Accent, so I was like, it doesn't make sense to not buy an Accent at this point. And so that was the decision. We decided that we were going to get the Hyundai Accent. That was going to be my car. And in typical fashion, I like to do things in a flashier or more presentable way than just the traditional idea of just doing the thing. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to pay for this car completely in cash. And I think it was like a $16,000 car at the time. And I had the money for it, and so I wanted to buy. I did all these significant purchases around significant birthdays, so I wanted to buy it as a birthday present for myself when I turned 21, and then I did. So I was taking the money out in preparation for the purchase. I purchased it like the last week of April. My birthday's on the 1st of May, so I was trying to figure out how to time it, but I was like, I don't need to actually buy the thing exactly on my birthday, because I want to drive it around on my birthday, you know? So we go in there to negotiations because the salespeople don't want to sell it for the MSRP price or whatever. They're like, well, it says 16,000 on the sticker, but after all these imaginary things that we tack on, it's actually 21. And so then we had to go into negotiations with these guys, which was stupid. And but I think it all went well, actually. There's a lot of points in that conversation and in that experience that will stick in my mind probably forever. I can remember at one point in time, because it was me, my mom, and my dad, and then the salesman was on the other side of this table or whatever, and we were all kind of in different parks. Like, I was just like, my dad is the very traditional old school salesman person. He's like, we're just gonna walk out and that'll show them. And I was just like, well, I think we can talk this out. I don't know that we need to just walk out just yet. And then my mom was just kind of like, oh, whatever happens. And so I was like, you know what, salesman guy, can you give us a minute and just walk away? And so then we kind of came together and got on the same page and figured out what we wanted out of this salesman guy, called him back, and continued to talk him down. And we got him down to the list MSRP price of $16,000. And then they take us into our banker guy. So another good point to this story is my dad had convinced me to not actually buy it outright. He's like, you can build credit if you only owe a silly amount of money on this thing. And I was like, that's actually a pretty good idea. And so it was like $16,000. I put 14 down on it. And so we had to go to the banker guy to set up our payments or whatever. And he was like, so do you have a cashier's check or something? And I was like, I got cash. And he was just like, cash? Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. I gotta count all that, and then I gotta hold it here in the vault, and that's dangerous walking around with all that money. And he was just so bent out of shape, but it felt great to just pull out that much cash and just hand it to someone and be like, this car is mine now, thank you. If anyone is ever in that situation, I highly encourage you to do it, because it just feels like nothing that words can quite describe. And to just hand that guy $14,000 and I'd be like, I gotta count all this and then I gotta store it here and this is so inconvenient. Just write a check. Oh, he was so mad. But then came the time to find somebody willing to do the loan because I didn't pay for the whole thing. And he was like, this is $2,000. This is a silly loan. No one's going to want to pick this up. Blah, 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 blah. And he was just so grumpy. I don't know what it is with grumpy people selling cars, but it happened a lot when I was trying to buy my car. But at any rate, so the dude found a bank to get the loan through. And we did pretty good about getting a solid loan. I wound up having to pay $34 a month. That was my car payment, $34 a month, and it was like a 5-year loan or something silly like that. And honestly, like, I forgot that it was even a thing. And then I got the letter in the mail, and I was like, "You officially own your car. Congratulations!" I was like, "Oh, cool, like, awesome." But I say all this because this was a very important first step to financial freedom. A car, in so many ways, is a ticket to freedom. And this is coming from someone who does not like driving at all. I can't stand it. I don't do any more driving than I have to do, but I do acknowledge its necessity in this modern world. I did not get my license until my senior year of high school. I resisted it quite a bit, and my parents kind of like ushered me into it, and they were like, "Oh, well, we're gonna go take you to GameStop." And I was like, "Okay." And then they actually drove me to the DMV and were like, "Actually, you're gonna take your license test now." And I was like, "Okay." And so I took my license test and passed it, and it was a whole thing. And then we moved on from that, and I had a license now and had to worry about driving. But once again, circling back to the whole point of these videos is like hoping that people can watch these and see what I did to accomplish financial freedom, and hope that they can see it and accomplish a similar thing is really all that I hope to do. And so absolutely, if you're someone like, you can't follow any one person's journey to an exact science, but if you're following my advice, if you're here because you care about my stories or my advice, then I would strongly encourage you to start with the car. Get yourself a reliable source of transportation. Make sure that your payment on it is minimal to none at all, and then work towards the next biggest, baddest, better thing. That for me was the house, because those were my target goals. My target goals were to attack a mortgage and attack a car payment. And after having accomplished the car payment, it was time to attack the mortgage. So first and foremost, if financial freedom is your end goal, like it was mine, then I would encourage you to figure out how you want to go about accomplishing it, and then devise a plan to accomplish it and stick to it and make it happen. Again, I did the car first, and then the house is another story for another video. You guys will have to tune in on that one and see what I have to tell you about that. And then from there, it's about building a brand and trying to exist on the internet and be self-sufficient. COVID really blew up the world, and the idea of being able to be your own boss and to make your own money and to be independent in that way. And it's always been a dream of mine, more so now than it ever was in the past. And I'm thinking that this financial freedom that my early decisions gained me will allow me to work into that space. I've gotten very much into the independent animation scene on YouTube right now because of my hopes to blow up with Compression Man. So I want to become a entity in that space. I want people to know who I am. And so for that, I'm able to leverage the financial freedom I gained from these early decisions to go towards that future success. And hopefully that all pays off in the end. But yeah, that was my story. That was how I accomplished my freedom of the car. And stay tuned for the next one, and we'll just keep on talking. I imagine I'll start talking a lot about the indie animation scene on YouTube right now, because it's kind of booming and everybody's saying that it's experiencing a renaissance. And so I feel like now is as good a time as any to jump on that. In some degrees, I feel like I'm always jumping on the bus a day late and $1 short, because Has-Been Hotel was like the biggest thing, and then the Digital Circus blew up as well. And usually after the first thing blows up, you're kind of too late to the party. But we'll see what the party holds for me and what the party holds for you as well. And I hope that it all works out for the both of us. I thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you on the next one.